Dig it.
Slow drag with remedy. I've had a 30-year love affair with the masterful poetry of Elvis Costello. The music is sure-footed and often cleverly dissonant. The commanding voice is strong, unforgettable, and that of an angel. But for me, it's always been about the words. Dense, complicated, and unflinching, his words are living creatures of biting insight, intrigue, and scathing innuendo. That's why I prefer to simply linger over the genius of the words themselves, rather than attempt any deeper or personal interpretations. After all, wasn't it a musical genius who said, "The words are a mystery I've heard, till you turn it down to 33 and a third"? This is an appreciation of a peerless poet whose words take on a life of their own. So, here we go. Today's slow drag is with Alibi. From the 2002 When I Was Cruel, songwriting credit goes to Elvis Costello. Known for his skillful verbal gymnastics, yet Alibi amazingly relies on a version of a common idiom as well as the power of small words, in this case, conjunctions. Prescriptivists will tell you to never start a sentence with a conjunction. That's why prescriptivists are a dying breed. At nearly 7 minutes long, there seems to be a lot of repetition in Alibi, perhaps, considering the chorus is scattered 6 or so times throughout, depending on what you consider to be part of the chorus. The word alibi itself is strategically repeated 67 times. The more something is said, the less it is heard, they say, the more it becomes mere background noise. Perhaps this contributes to the genius of the piece. The idiom, no ifs, ands, or buts, has been around for centuries and means without reservation, without any sort of excuse. An alibi, on the other hand, from the 17th century Latin, meaning to prove you were somewhere else when something happened, is a story that needs to be given in order to clear yourself from doubt. True or not, an alibi is an excuse. So already we have two competing notions to ponder: giving excuses and categorically not accepting excuses. But if I've done something wrong, there's no ifs and buts, 'cause I love you just as much as I hate your guts. This exact chorus wording is scattered 4 times throughout this piece. It is eloquent, jarring, and a bit juvenile in its brutal yet insightful honesty. Without the or, however, as in the idiom no ifs, ands, or buts, as the saying goes, the options are decidedly fewer. In the world of Alibi, you cannot simply love or hate something. You can only love and hate. Just before this first biting chorus, the scope of a person's alibis are set down in the first 2 lines. And you did it 'cause you wanted, and you took it 'cause you need it. Alibi. Both wanting and needing an excuse? Oh, how maddening. So let the conflict begin. Each subsequent chorus begins with the word but, while other verses either start with or contain the word and. Notice how each time there is an and, it seems to break down into an argument or some sort of contradiction quite quickly. For instance, and you don't need anybody. Nice, a bit accusatory though, so here comes the U-turn. But you are the only one that knows this. And then just a bit of contempt thrown in for good measure. You deserve it, 'cause you're special. Maybe Jesus wants you for a sunbeam. A slight rewording of that last line about a sunbeam can be found on Wendy James' song Earthbound from the 1993 Elvis Costello penned Now Ain't the Time for Your Tears. of which the EC demo is known as the Gwendolyn letters. It's charming how little phrases like this find themselves in different places every so often, with faintly different meanings scattered throughout his pantheon of expressions. In Earthbound, the line is, Jesus probably wants you for a sunbeam. I think this line can be traced to the Ernest Children's song entitled, Jesus Wants Me for a Sunbeam. So the phrase has gone from a seemingly optimistic, yet really quite chilling religious children's song, then transformed into conjecture about what your higher purpose probably is, and has finally drifted back to earth a bit as a simple shrug of maybe Jesus wants you for a sunbeam. So Jesus wants me, Jesus probably wants you, and now maybe Jesus wants you. In all three versions, the fact that you're special remains the driving force. But if I've left something out, I apologize. This is a line that cannot be trusted. If, what a funny little word. Can any apology that's given with the qualifier of if still count as an apology? But if you look in my eyes, then I'm sure you'll see alibis. When prompted to make eye contact, to look someone in the eye, its usual purpose is to confirm truth, something about liars not being able to look you in the eye, even though I've had lies nearly burn holes in my retinas professing the truth. But in this case, maybe the exercise is to see the excuses that one has manufactured, or simply a failing of sincerity. Insane. What a mundane alibi. Note that insane is in quotes, suggesting that claiming to be crazy is a really quite dull excuse when there are so many other better ones to choose from. Let's detail some of these excuses from Alibi, splitting them into the little words that they start with. And you only wanted to be famous, and you're such a people person, and I will be true to you forever. You were happy, you were poor, and more honest, and that's your alibi. Now for some buts. But you never had a pony, but you're stupid and you're lazy. Acerbic, vintage, just the sort of excuses we take pleasure in hearing. Other alibis that are biting, feeble, and maybe even a bit oblique are, you were weak, you couldn't help it. Sorry, but your mommy doesn't love you. Great excuses, to be sure. I can imagine each of these being unfurled for any number of occasions. In addition to the two choruses, but if I've done something wrong, there's no ifs and buts, 'cause I love you just as much as I hate your guts. And, but if I've left something out, I apologize. There's a third version of the chorus thrown in, combining two of the small words, but and if, that has informed this entire piece. And then it adds an edict to chew over as well. But if I've done something right, then don't be surprised. There are soldiers who will kill, but refuse to die. Not doing something wrong, but doing something right. This is a great negation device used in other songs, notably London's Brilliant Parade and Joe Porterhouse, that keeps us on our toes and prevents the words from being taken for granted. As for soldiers who refuse to die, it reminds me of a soldier I met on a bus once. He mentioned how one of the first questions he was asked in boot camp was if he and his fellow recruits were prepared to die for their country. Most everyone said enthusiastically, "Yes, sir." Yes, they were willing to die for their country. The drill sergeant punished them for this answer. "Your objective," he said, "is not to die for your country. It is to kill for your country." This retelling of the event seemed to rattle the soldier. Doing the right thing and killing seemed incongruous at best. As for the line in the song, frankly, I haven't a clue what it means, which is just fine by me. I don't claim to have the answers. Remember, this is an appreciation, not an explanation. To know the answer is to diminish the impact, in my opinion. It's just fun to let our imaginations run rampant. Alibi is gritty, accusatory, insincere, contradictory. It's an exploration of the power of conjunctions and how they bend to the will of meaning. Knowledge, so says the school of rock, is power. You remember. Conjunction, junction. What's your function? Hooking up phrases and clauses that balance. Alibi is a great lesson for writers and poets alike. Sometimes you don't have to use big or obscure words in order to be profound, to get your point across, to create a scathing world that spotlights everyday lies and excuses. And of course, there's a nice little reminder of the belter, "Now ain't the time for your tears," and how small tweaks of language can create different mindscapes that fracture into a prism of many meanings and intentions. Dig it. Again, this has been a slow drag with 2002's Alibi, from When I Was Cruel, an album that would go on to be quite the turning point, but I did promise to leave deeper and more personal interpretations to others now, didn't I? Thank you very much for finding this appreciation of Elvis Costello's poetry and for listening all the way to the end. Please check the show notes for links to the actual song, as well as links to references made in this episode. You will also find a link to this Slow Drag's companion blog. So, until next time, adieu, my little ballyhoo. Slow drag with remedy.